Do you want Instagrammers or TikTokers to post about your brand? Or do you actually want to engage creators who influence their audience to buy your product? If you're in the latter of those two, you've come to the right place. Welcome to Winfluence, the Influence Marketing Podcast. Hello again, friends. Thanks for tuning in to Winfluence, the Influence Marketing Podcast. It's been a minute. If you haven't noticed, Winfluence has been on a bit of a holiday hiatus. Honestly, it's a good thing. Client work ramped up toward the end of the year, and I simply didn't have enough time to fit in the weekly interviews and production to give you an episode worth listening to. Instead of rushing to crank out something mediocre, I decided to step back, focus on the client work, and maybe reassess what Winfluence is and can be. For the last few weeks, I've thought long and hard about the show. I even entertained the notion that maybe we've run our course here and it wasn't worth the energy to crank out more episodes in 2024. But then two things happened. First, I thought about the state of things. And to be quite honest, we're not done. There's still a lot to accomplish in influence marketing. A good portion of the industry is still falling over itself, doing things poorly. The bigger the creator, the more likely you're going to have to deal with talent managers. Every talent manager I talk to these days seems to be more and more out of touch with the reality brands face with budgets and return on their marketing dollar. Brand managers are still pushing influencers to just be advertising shills, and we are still thinking of influencers as the key to success when the whole premise of this show and my approach to the craft is centered around the influence, not the influencer. It's about to be 2024, and most of the people in the industry spending dollars on influence marketing are still functioning like it's 2007. The other thing that informed my thinking I want to save for later, so stay tuned for that. Today on Winfluence, I'm going to list some things that are still broken about our industry. I'm going to carve out a few ideas on what we can try to do to fix them, and I'm going to recommit to you that this show is not only not going away, we're just getting started. That's coming up on Winfluence. You know by now, Winfluence is presented by Scipio.ai. Its software and managed services helps brands transform their digital marketing with user-generated content and videos and images at scale. Why is UGC so important? Shopify data shows UGC content quadruples your ad click-through rates. UGC drives as much as 7 times more engagement on social media. UGC improves website conversions by as much as 29% and email click-through rates by as much as 73%. User-generated content is also more trusted by consumers than even traditional influencer content. Scipio.ai allows you to find the content creators already sharing the type of content your brand values. It helps you recruit them to do that for you and does so on scale. It's cost efficient. It solves your organic and paid content problems, and Scipio.ai has a team to help you do it all in a neat managed service practice. Once you have that library of user-generated content, Scipio.ai's generative AI solution allows you to quickly slice together and produce 15 or 30-second video ads for Meta or TikTok from your own user-generated content. Remember that stat? UGC quadruples ad click-through rates? Scipio.ai makes it easy to go get UGC, then create ads with it all, and the cost is something to behold. Go to jasonfalls.co/Scipio, fill out that form, and I'll personally set up a time to show you how we can scale the acquisition of UGC for your brand, then turn all that user-generated content into ready-to-go video ads. It will cut your ad production time and budget into fragments of what you're likely spending now. That address again is jasonfalls.co/Scipio, CIPIO. Scale your UGC and solve a whole bunch of content problems for paid and owned campaigns for a surprisingly reasonable price. jasonfalls.co/Scipio. What's right and wrong with influence marketing? And what are we going to do in 2024 to fix the bad and grow the good? I'll share my thoughts next on Winfluence. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Albert Einstein allegedly said that. I figure he's a pretty smart guy to listen to, don't you? If that quote holds true, then most brands, brand managers, agencies, and consultants in the influencer marketing space are batshit crazy. A fair number of talent managers and influencers are too, though they benefit the most from the status quo in our industry, so it affects fewer of them. What is it they keep doing over and over? Treating influencer marketing like we did in 2007 when sponsored posts were the thing. Brands think influencers are a cheaper way to advertise. They think 100,000 impressions of an influencer's post is the same as 100,000 impressions of a television commercial. When exponentially smaller numbers of people impressed by the message actually convert, brands are pissed. The next campaign? Spend money on influencers. Those impressions are cheaper. We'll drive the same conversions for less money. Didn't work that time either? What size straitjacket shall we get for you, dear? Bless your heart. Agencies and consultants aren't much better. They may philosophically know that influencer activations are different than traditional advertising, so the outcomes will be as well, but they aren't confident or capable enough to educate their clients about influencers, so they go along with the desire to drive cheap impressions and hope the outcome is significantly better. Talent managers and influencers love this idiocy because they just have to feign interest in the brand or product for the lifespan of the contracted posts, then take their check and move on to the next victim. And if the brand asks for anything beyond the quoted deliverable, they nickel and dime the brand to death, making the ROI even less attractive, which leaves the creator, the manager, the agency, and the brand all to suffer. This cycle of sameness, doing the same thing over and over again, is going to gradually suck the life out of influence marketing. Brands are going to become less convinced in its effectiveness, less willing to invest in the practice, and then guess how much the talent manager will be able to nickel dime out of the brand for use of a creator's content? Not a damn dime. Bless your heart. Why do you think user-generated content and micro creators are all the rage these days? Because brands can push them around. They can make them do more for less. And brands are starting to wise up to the fact that the influencer is only as useful as his or her content. And his or her content can be promoted to the brand's target audience easier, more effectively, and with better outcomes than it can produce being shown to the creator's audience alone. Brand managers, on the other hand, are falling into the same trap. Pay more for less just to hit some irrelevant impressions number or impress the C-suite with how many followers that new influencer partner has. They forget that finding a truly authentic brand fan and building a long-term relationship costs less, earns more, and keeps the lights on. Those that are smarter than the average TikToker are moving budget to paid campaigns and finding cheap micro creators or user-generated content to fuel those media buys. In 2024, I see a few things happening if the status quo continues. First, big shot influencers who aren't also building their own advertising or media channels will see revenue drop and opportunities fade. For those that are creating YouTube channels or podcasts where ad revenue replaces brand collabs, those are the stars of tomorrow who only the big budget brands will be able to afford to work with. Talent managers will see similar fates. Those with pay me first mentalities will soon be looking for different lines of work. Those building a brand for their clients outside of collaborations will be the talent agents of tomorrow. Most brands will be dissatisfied with the return their influencer dollar earns because they're still thinking sponsored posts and follower counts. Those that are focused on creative ways to partner and build relationships with content creators of all shapes and sizes will make progress and be more successful influencing audiences to take action. And agencies will ebb and flow like they always do. Those willing to advocate for the smart way to implement influence will lose dumb clients, gain smart ones, and be successful. Those who just do what the client says and bill their hours will keep losing business and leaving clients dissatisfied. But what would happen if we changed? What would influence marketing be like if both creators and talent managers realized they had to provide not only value, but proof of that value before signing a brand? or maybe even getting paid by them? What would it look like if creators and talent managers took that a step further and agreed to performance-based compensation as all or part of their package? What would it look like if brands insisted upon performance-based pay or refused to work with anyone who just slapped big fees on vague success metrics? What would it look like if agencies came back with strategies that focused on influencing an audience to take action, not the name of some big, sexy mega influencer to endorse the brand? What if an influencer strategy could be a series of coordinated and integrated actions and reactions that drove conversation, buzz, interest, curiosity, and all those intangible things that create a movement of tangible outcomes? The more I thought about these possibilities this week, the more I realized they were exactly why I wrote the book Winfluence. They are exactly why I started the podcast Winfluence. There's a lot of work to be done to make the market smarter, so I will endeavor to do such. And I'm going to ask for your help. I need you to elevate those doing the work the right way so I can surface them and tell their stories. I need you to advocate for influence over influencers in your work and to the colleagues you have in your networks. I need you to point people this way, to the Winfluence way, so together we can make this industry stronger, more professional, more efficient, and more effective for us all. In 2024, I intend to push the influence approach, the Winfluence approach, if you will, more intentionally. We have to ask brand managers why they're not seeing the bigger picture, or how and why they are, if so. We have to hold creators and talent managers accountable and bring them down off their high horses to know the reality of the gap they're creating for themselves. We have to continue to find more effective ways to motivate audiences to take action through avenues of influence, whether or not social media content creators are involved. This may result in fewer episodes in your feed, but it should result in more meaningful ones when they do come. I'll be more selective this year on who I interview and more intentional when I decide to share an opinion. I'm not going to settle for a startup CEO who just wants to push his thing. I'm going to do a lot better to ensure they have something more meaningful to add to the conversation too. I mentioned there were two things that put out the notion it might be time to move on from doing this podcast. Certainly, the idea that our work here is not done is the big one. But the other one is very important to me personally. And forgive me, I need to share. A listener of the show made it a point to tell me how much they enjoyed it. It happened on a new business call with a prospective client who is a brand manager for a large brand. She said she loves Winfluence and listens regularly. Honestly, that's all the encouragement I needed. One of you raised your hand and validated the show provides value. I hope it also does for the rest of you, of course, but I also recognize that on-demand content in an always-on-the-go and attention-deficit world means most of you don't think or have time to stop and encourage little old me or any of the other podcasters or content creators that you follow. I see the download numbers. I know you're listening, but hearing the acknowledgement somehow makes it more real. And that's enough to keep me firing. So thank you. Not just to the listener who told me those nice things last week on that call, but to all of you for giving me a little of your time each week, for following along, for trusting me to share something useful that can make you smarter for your job, your clients, or your business. I'm glad I was reminded there are real people behind those download numbers. I'm humbled and honored that you pay attention. I hope my renewed focus for 2024 excites you, but I don't want to assume it does. What are your expectations? What are your needs from a show like this? What do you want and need from me or from Winfluence in 2024? I'd love your feedback. Comment wherever you see this post or email me, jason@jasonfalls.com. I'm always looking for feedback and ideas to keep giving you what you want and need out of Winfluence and my efforts here. The industry needs a firm kick in the pants now more than ever. I realize no one has appointed me to be the boot, but you know me. I'm going to toe that one up anyway. What do you say? You ready to stir some shit up in 2024 for the better? Cool. I'm glad you're along for the ride. Thank you for listening or watching. Be sure to share this and other episodes with your friends or colleagues who want to know more about this concept of influence marketing rather than influencer marketing. You can find the episodes at winfluencepod.com, on YouTube. Just look for Winfluence, or just join us for the live stream every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also connect with me on all the social channels. I'm Jason Falls just about everywhere. Winfluence is a production of Falls and Partners and presented by Scipio.ai. The technical production is by MPN Studios. Winfluence airs along MPN, the Marketing Podcast Network. Thanks for listening, folks. Let's talk again soon on Winfluence.